I think a lot of people um, don't have that platform to express, what they really want, what they want
Yeah.
from their food, what's important to them. And it is valuable information. Like you said, you don't have to go out and pay for it from a data set. You can,
A mission driven brand does not become more valuable simply because the founder believes deeply in the mission. It becomes more valuable when shoppers understand that mission, see themselves in it, and want to carry it forward. Later in this episode, you will hear how a founder can turn an occasional customer into a loyal evangelist by creating a more personal relationship with the people who already buy your product. It begins simply by listening instead of simply promoting. Ask useful questions. Learn the words your shoppers use. Invite them deeper into the values behind your brand. Then use what you learn to improve your products, packaging, communication, retailer story, and repeat purchase. I call this the shopper signal flywheel. Marise has spent 20 years building chai organics around authenticity, organic agriculture, fair trade, and a deeply personal commitment to making good food while creating a positive impact. Her story shows why the relationship between the founder, the mission, and the shopper matters so much. Are you ready to hear more? Welcome to the Bulletproof Your CPG Brand podcast. I'm Dan Lohman, founder of Retail Solve. I help CPG founders protect runway, improve execution, and compete smarter. Today I'm talking with Marise, co-founder of Chai Organics. Now let's roll up our sleeves and get started. Marise, thank you for coming on today. Can you please tell me about yourself and your journey to where you're at today?
Sure. Thanks so much, Dan. I'm really excited to be here. Well, my name is Marise May, and I'm the co-founder of Chaz Organics. We are in our 20th year now, out of Montreal in Canada, and we are widely known as Canada's favorite organic coconut milk. We also carry a wide variety of other products, coconut-based mostly, but also spices, some really nice snacks, coconut rolls, and some heirloom rice. Our products are sourced in Sri Lanka, and we work with some really cool Fairtrade, organic, regenerative farmers over there. So we're just all about good food, making good things happen in the world, and trying to make the world a better place for everyone while eating well.
Well, I appreciate your coming on. And Matt was on the podcast before. He works
Yeah.
for you, and he did an
Yeah.
amazing job. And the thing that impressed me most is how you are doing it right. And what I say doing it right, the fair trade, the organic, the regenerative organic, and how you're giving back to the community. Let's start by talking about that commitment that you've made, not only to your brand, to your consumers, because that's important, but more important, not more importantly, but if they understand or appreciate why that matters, that's going to help you help them.
Yeah. Thank you for starting with that because that's really at the heart of what we do. Um, I would say that we came to business a little bit unconventionally. My background is in nutritional science, and my partner Chanika is actually from Sri Lanka. I have been vegetarian since birth and off and on vegan my whole life. Always had a real deep care for animals and the environment. I always wanted to make the world a better place. And I think when I was growing up, as a lot of young people do, I saw a lot of problems in the world which could seem insurmountable. And sometime in my young 20s, when I was graduating from my nutrition degree, I realized that there was only so far I could go through academia or through those conventional channels if I really wanted to have an impact. I mean, I really didn't want to just be one person, giving one person advice or really limited in that way. I just felt like I wanted to have an impact, like I wanted to make a difference in the world. And I started to realize that even though I wasn't really from a business background, let's say, I was really looking at more like the scientific side and the nutrition, environment, whatnot. I started to realize that really business is so important because most people in the end are influenced through marketing. So I was of that mindset when I traveled to Japan after my finishing my bachelor degree in nutritional science, and I met Chanaka, my partner, who was living in Japan, and I guess you could say we hit it off. And we quickly realized that there was something pretty cool between the synergy of where he comes from and these really nice, products, like I don't want to call them products, but crops, foods like coconut, like turmeric. There were things I was really interested in at the time, having recently discovered Ayurveda and the healing benefits of spices, especially turmeric. And I was really onto coconut at the time in the early 2000s for like so many reasons, the healthy fats, the versatility. And as a vegan, who had always avoided dairy, I was really into this, like bringing these products to market in Canada. Um, And he is very entrepreneurial, I would say, and really like of the people and understands, the reality of the people in Sri Lanka, the farmers, and he really gets it. So we realized we had this cool synergy between the two of us. And I guess that was the foundation of where we ended up building our business out of was this really like heartfelt commitment to doing good for people, like doing good for consumers, helping them eat better, helping them be able to have impact as well, bringing that impact into the hands of consumers. And then also making sure that what we do it right, like you said, so we work with the right partners, we get to know them, we know what they're doing, how they're growing, how the environment is impacted, how their people are benefited. And so that's just what we've been doing. And now, yeah, we just celebrated our 20th year in business. So still going strong, and I just got back from Sri Lanka actually, and it's always just so inspiring to go there and really see on the ground, what we're involved in. It's pretty cool.
Well, I personally really appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate the
Thank
commitment
you.
that you're making. And also, I love the fact that you've given a bigger voice to this. And so, kind of a funny story. There's so much noise in the industry about what you should eat, what you shouldn't eat. And there was someone at one of the local retailers, the big retailer here, had a nutritionist that put out a ranking of all the different products. And they took a vegan spaghetti. I forget exactly. I think it was made out of broccoli or something like that. I forget what it was. But anyhow,
Yeah.
that was less healthy than the stuff that has carbs and white flour in terms of their ranking. My point is, you're giving a bigger voice to a problem and you're doing it more consistently with more people. And you don't have because of your authenticity, I'm not getting your bias. Let me put it that way. Can you
Yeah.
go into that a little bit more?
Like, sorry, just if you could just back up for a minute. So, um, basically what you're saying, like that we just sort of present the product transparently without trying to like impose a bias or
No, no, thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry, I'll try to be more clear. So I go to
yeah.
one store, I'm told this is the way I should eat. I go to another store,
Oh,
this is the way I
yeah.
should eat. I listen to one nutritionist, here's what I should do. The point
Yeah.
being is that your brand promise is consistent with everyone you talk to, the way you present it, the way you communicate it, the way I experience it when I take it
Yeah.
home. That matters because it's not only a brand promise in terms of how you give back and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a minute. But the fact that it's consistently good for me, it's regenerative. I mean, it's got the things that I need. Can you dig into that a little bit more?
Yeah, actually, great point. Thank you. I think that this speaks to being uncomplicated, and that's something that I have always valued as a person. I like simplicity. I like truth. I like to kind of cut through the noise and get to the heart of it. Actually, that's why I studied nutritional science. As a teenager, I had been really into plant-based foods. I was discovering veganism, and at the time, there was like zines and things going around, and they would tell you things. But I was like, how can I really trust this piece of paper that someone photocopied and stapled together that I got in my like humanities class at school? I don't know, So I really wanted to like dig deeper, and I guess I've always been a truth seeker. So I like to cut through the noise and find the essence. And that's what really excited me about coconut, I would say early on, and still excites me now, is I think that that is one of those, I don't want to say products. Coconut is just one of those incredible miracle foods that I think has longevity because it's just been around for so long, and these trees are so ancient and so incredible, and everything we get from that tree is just fascinating in so many ways, including the coconut milk, the coconut oil, the coconut water, like all the things that come out of it are just really good. And I think they've stood the test of time. We're not so much into, trends and fads. It's like, here's something that has really healthy fats that your body needs, the short and medium chain fatty acids. You have your lauric acid and all of those really nice fatty acids that actually nourish the gut, the brain cells, nervous system, the gut bacteria, and so many tissues in the body and just support health. So this seems to be something that, despite what some people will tell you, because I believe there is some misinformation going around, even in nutritional science around coconut, because not all of the research has been done on high quality coconut. I do believe coconut is one of those products that will stand the test of time, that will be proven to be healthy. So many people just enjoy it for the taste and as a dairy alternative or for cooking, but really it goes beyond that. So we look for these products like coconut, and most of our products are coconut or turmeric or true cinnamon, that really people have been using for thousands of years. and they're simple and they're uncomplicated. And then we don't complicate them. So we don't add glyphosate into the ground. We don't add chemical fertilizer into the ground. We don't spray them with antifungals or pesticides. We don't add all kinds of other chemicals in the processing. We don't add any gums, any fillers, so we try to keep things pure, simple, and uncomplicated. And we try to only really present our customers or our consumers with products that we truly believe in, that we can stand behind. And I think that might be what differentiates us as almost like more of an ingredient company, I would say, even though we have snacks, is that we don't try to reinvent everything and make some kind of crazy new fad product that, I won't say anything because I don't know a lot of people out there, but sometimes I see things and they're kind of like borderline ridiculous. And I just like to keep things simple and uncomplicated. And I think that's how we have maintained our brand integrity over 20 years and will continue to do so, is with that promise of simplicity and authenticity and just keeping things uncomplicated.
I appreciate you sharing that. I'm going to pick on myself a little bit. So, years ago, I remember learning that the leading cereal company, the guy that started it, took a grain of cereal, busted it apart, and put in a bunch of vitamins and nutrients. And I thought, wow, that's pretty brilliant. And I thought, wow, that's really cool that you could do that, thinking that that was a good idea. And then when I
Right.
worked for Mega Food and I was working, talking to Trina Lodog and Dr. Weil, I was learning about the nutrients and how things don't metabolize in the body. And the point being, where I'm going with this, is that our parents ate organic because that's all there was.
Mm.
One, and two, if you give your body what it needs, then it doesn't need all that other stuff. And
Mm.
three, a lot of the stuff that's processed or a lot of the stuff that's manufactured doesn't metabolize in the body. So, from my perspective, the reason that we have such a health crisis in this country, the US, is because of all the processed foods. And the point being is that if you take something and process it, then you either bake out the nutrients or you do something to compromise them. Where, to your point, if I
Mhm.
eat what nature gave me, then that's what matters most. So the way that I frame this is this: if I eat the generic bread, I'm hungry before I finish eating it. If I eat the
Yeah.
best mainstream bread, I may be satiated longer, but I still get hungry and it won't give my body everything it needs. However, if I spend the extra, say 50 cents, dollar more for the organic bread, then the organic bread is going to give me what I need. Therefore, at a higher price point, it's actually
Yeah.
less expensive because I'm giving my body what it needs and I'm satisfying my body completely. And
Yeah.
I was talking to Matt Goldberg, not Matt, excuse me, I think Matt. Anyhow,
Max?
yeah, Max, thank you. Yeah, so he went completely organic, lost a lot of weight, got really super healthy. And the point being is that if you're eating healthy, then you don't need all that other stuff. You eat less of it, and that's
Sure.
better for you, better for your skin, better for everything else. And then we get to the environment, to the animals, to the planet, etc. Can you add on to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is spot on. And I think also what gets lost in a lot of people is there's the processing and there's the ultra processed, and that's true. Minimal processing could include cooking. That's a form of processing. So not necessarily all processing is bad. If you bake something, with no added oils and it's super healthy and it's all organic, that might not be a bad thing. But on the other hand, like when you're going into ultra processing and ultra refining, and to your point of adding in the vitamins and minerals, so you're like stripping the grain of everything nutrient dense and then trying to add them back in synthetically and artificially. And then so there's all kinds of junk going back in there that our bodies don't really know how to handle. So, to your point about organic and organic bread, I mean, I think one of the biggest issues around wheat and around bread is that here in Canada, anyways, in the United States, we're actually, I don't want to say we, like our farmers, are using glyphosate to desiccate wheat and legumes and grains, oats, wheat, lentils, chickpeas, pre-harvest. So, this is off-label use. It's not being used as a pesticide, which it's registered for. Um, it's actually being used as a desiccant, which means that, the farmers pass the field, spray the field with glyphosate, harvest the grain, that gets ground up, put into flour, and that's the bread. When you mention eating non-organic bread, this is what people are consuming. So yeah, obviously you're going to have less nutrients, but you're also going to be hungry because now your body's not working properly. Like you can no longer metabolize nutrients properly. The gut is losing, vital bacteria, and it's changing the bacterial composition. And now you're not maybe producing the right amount of vitamins and also neurotransmitters, right? Because gut bacteria produce serotonin and neurotransmitters. So just imagine by eating that non-organic slice of bread, where this leads to, and versus, so when you're choosing the organic grain, now you're feeding your body not only nutrient dense food, but you're not putting into your body these toxins, that are actually just wreaking havoc on our health. And it does remind me what you're saying about our organic rice, because I just got back from Sri Lanka, so I was visiting a lot of our organic heirloom rice paddy fields, and this is just, to me, it's an incredible experience to go and to be there and to witness, the difference that we're making, that our customers, our consumers, our family here are helping us make by choosing to buy our organic heirloom rice, which is available in Canada right now, and also though it goes into our organic coconut rolls, which are available in the United States as well. So the heirloom rice is grown in such an incredible way. I was just visiting our farm, and there was actually a PhD student there. So she was, or I think, a master's student in agriculture. So she was really breaking it down and explaining some really cool stuff. If you don't contaminate the soil, and I will say contaminate with nitrogen-based, fossil fuel-based chemical fertilizer, this is the first step in the soil health and soil balance going off, is just when you fertilize. If you don't put that stuff in the ground and you plant this heirloom seed, which is perfectly suited to the environment, to the climate, and you give it enough space to grow, and you give it enough nutrients, compost, just natural things, and you just let the soil be, it grows these incredibly strong plants that are so resilient that you don't even need to apply pesticides. So this woman was there in the field, and she was observing all the insect species. And there are insect species in the field that would decimate these conventional crops that are being applied, where you're applying the fertilizer and the pesticide and the glyphosate, and they're not harming our crop. So the reason for that is that the plant itself has its own built-in resilience, has its own built-in immune system, really. And when you don't over-fertilize, it creates stronger roots. Now the roots are going deeper into the ground. And when you leave the soil microbe and the balance of nature take care of, that plant, it develops these really strong synergies between the soil microbiome and the plant and the root systems and the fungi. And then they have these species like dragonfly and spiders that are natural predators. And the whole system works. Like, it just works if you just let it be. And they have these beautiful plants growing that are, after 6 weeks, they're massive and they've got root balls like this. And I'm thinking, geez, there's people saying you can't grow rice in Sri Lanka without fertilizer. This is crazy, right? But fertilizer is the first thing they do to weaken the plant. So it's just amazing. It just reminded me of what you were talking about, because like everything that, that applies in us and our gut, really, you can apply that to the soil and the plants growing there.
It's true. In fact, actually, I've had a lot of people on the podcast who've we haven't gotten into the weeds, which this is important, but the point is there's so much misinformation. And for example, Organic India, they made the way that they help the farmers get off get off the pesticides and the herbicides and the fertilizers and stuff like that. Lotus Foods, what it does. Jeff Moyer from the Rodale Institute. Actually, this is before they had the certification, the Regenerative certification. He came on and was sharing a lot of the same thing about how when you protect the ground that we're growing stuff in, it makes a tremendous impact. So thank you for sharing all that. So as far as how this relates to your product, the point being is that the brand promise is really strong, and the consistency and the way that you deliver it. Can you talk a little bit about how you connect what you just shared to the consumer that buys your stuff, buys your products?
Well, first of all, platforms like this are so important for us because, as you can see, there's a lot behind our brand. We're more than just a one-hit wonder. We're more than just like a catchy slogan or a cute package. I mean, there really is a lot of substance there. And so having an opportunity like this to share these details, to really elaborate a little more on, what really goes into our products, the ethos behind what we do, our values, how the plants are grown, all of this, I think, is really what reaches a lot of our core consumers. And one way that we've been able to build this, really organically over the past 20 years is my partner and I, Chanaka, Maddie, who we've had on the show, our core team, just getting out there and really speaking to people. So like hitting up all the independent health food stores early on, door to door, speaking to the store managers, speaking to even the cashiers, the naturopaths, getting them familiar with our brand so that they can be our brand ambassadors at the retail level was a huge way that we grew our brand early on, doing a lot of demos ourselves in person, speaking again, showing people that authenticity, communicating who we are. So they see, okay, this is who we are. I'm the person who goes and sees the farmer and I know why I'm buying that product, and I'm the person who's promising you a product you can trust. I think that goes a long way, that we're not dealing with a lot of middlemen. We're quite direct, and Chanaka being Sri Lankan, we really are direct. We know some of these farmers personally, we visit them. And I think that authenticity and the care and the passion behind what we do, we just always have to find ways to communicate that. So it could be through consumer shows, demos, and then, as we went on through the years, obviously social media is a big part of communicating, being on podcasts, having any opportunity to give presentations. I always welcome any opportunity to get in front of a crowd and speak, because I think that we have a lot there in our brand story, and actually sometimes too much. It's hard to pack it in and choose like, okay, what are we focusing on? But I find depending on who I'm speaking with, there might be a different interest. It might go to more of the social impact of what we do, how we're helping people, women, children, communities, the animal rights, the animal protection. We do donate 1% of our coconut milk proceeds to the elephant conservation in Sri Lanka. We have a few projects there. Our product's not picked by monkeys. They're all plant-based. So we have like different avenues, different people we reach, I think, with our values and our messaging. And then it's just, I guess, like, it's also a question I have for you, how can we do it better? Because I think my biggest challenge is finding how to reach that consumer who's just shopping for groceries at the grocery store, who's not on your podcast or not on our social media, and having a product that really speaks to them, and I think that is where our challenge is. I don't really have an answer for that. People have QR codes, shelf talkers, all kinds of stuff. But at the end of the day, the product has to speak for itself too, and you have a very limited space. So then we just go down to product appearance and product integrity, product taste, and the promise of, a great product that everyone can trust, I guess. But I would love to hear your input on how we reach that consumer at the grocery store, just shopping for their groceries, with all of the brand story and messaging and impact that goes into our brand.
I'm glad you asked that. So let me back way up and let's talk about the underlying problem. The underlying problem is that in this industry, the myth is that if I lower the price, people will buy stuff. And I hate that, because it's assuming that we're all stupid as consumers. Mm-hmm. And if you lower the price on a bad product, I'm going to go out and buy it. Okay? Mm-hmm. It doesn't consider value. And so two things. One, we need to help consumers understand and appreciate the value that you bring. That's in your brand story. That's in the care that you put in the product. That's in your brand promise in terms of how you deliver the product, where it comes from, the authenticity, all that other stuff, okay? That's critically important. We need to not, as an industry, not allow ourselves to be misled by the notion that price is the only thing. So back to the bread story. If I'm a retailer, here's how you need to communicate that. Go just pick it on the bread story. So if I'm the cheap generic bread, that customer that buys that probably does not spend a lot in that store. Their market basket is really small. If I'm the mainstream bread buyer, the top of the line mainstream bread, I'm going to spend more, but I'm still going to go from store to store to store to store, etc. And granted, you run into, especially now, this unpredictable environment. But if I'm an organic customer, I'm going to buy more organic things across the store. So my basket is dramatically higher as a result. So in 2016, I was given the privilege of putting together, actually wrote a feature article for the Progressive Grocer. And Nielsen gave me access to all their data, store level, at a certain level. And I was able to prove with that the stuff that we're talking about are the key drivers. And so the Cliff Notes version is that in the dairy category, sales are up like 1%. But in organic dairy was up 12%. Organic dairy represents just a small fraction of that category. If you strip organic out of that out of that entire category, sales were declining. And I found the same thing throughout the store, especially when you get into plant-based, into gluten-free, into all of the stuff that we care about, organic particularly. And my point is that this is what we need to help the retailers appreciate so that they can build bigger baskets, keep their customers in the store, and build more loyalty with that customer while they're there. So the
Mm-hmm.
point being is that, and this is where all my content is focused, is that if I can help our community better communicate to the retailer the value that we bring in terms of the consumer that we drive into the store, that's the win. Your thoughts?
I think that's spot on. I think that's absolutely true. I agree because I know that the consumer who looks for our product, they care about their health, they care about their family's health. They're willing to spend maybe that dollar more to get premium quality, gum-free or like the gluten-free vegan organic snack for their kids, whatever the case may be. That shopper, I know because I'm that shopper. And I know how much my basket, can often be worth. It can be a little, we spend a lot of our income on food because food's what matters, and at the end of the day, health is wealth, right? So, yeah, that resonates with me because like it will draw in a customer who will look for those higher value products and seek them out. So if we can bring that customer into the store, I agree. I think that is a win. And but then again, so one thing is us bringing the customer in. So that means that's a customer who might have seen us at a trade show or consumer show, followed us on social media, or someone told them about our brand. So somehow they became aware of our brand and we draw that customer in. And I love that as a key message to deliver to the retail buyer or manager. How, though, do we communicate with a customer who's just walking the aisles at a store, shopping for, they want to pick up some coconut milk to go home and make their curry. There's 5 different brands. I know our look is different. It's exciting. We have a premium product and a lot of people have tried it and they know it, but a lot of people haven't. And my curiosity is always in how to reach that customer. What is it in the product itself that can stand out and acquire that customer when all they're doing is just scanning the aisle and they don't have time to go on social media and like look at our latest podcast and what is this brand all about, I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
That's another good question. So, this is not meant to be a commercial for Mega Food. I'm not, I no longer work for them. I was as a consultant for them. But the point being, what I wanted to share is that if I go into the store and I buy a $5 bottle of vitamin C, 1,000 milligrams, that sounds pretty impressive, right? Big bottle, right? Anyhow, that's just expensive urine. If I spend
Yeah.
20, 30 bucks, whatever it is, to buy their stuff, the way they make it, etc., because, and by the way, in terms of processing, heat, they don't put it together with heat the way that other brands do. So anyhow, all the nutrients, etc., are in that product. So the point
Mm-hmm.
being, the value, okay?
Yeah.
One, the 1,000 milligrams not going to solve my problem as a customer. To your point, it's going to create other issues with all the other stuff I'm putting in my body.
Yeah.
So when you talk about your product specifically, one, how do we communicate that? So building awareness and whatnot. But the other thing I want to challenge you to do is, let me ask you, if I sign up to your list, what do you do with my name? How do you, if I give you my email address, what happens next?
Well, we should have a welcome flow of emails. However, I will say that we're currently revamping our entire website and newsletter because it's been kind of unloved recently. We've just been so busy that we haven't given it the attention it needs. But that would be a great way to educate more and to really, I guess, gain people's loyalty is to have a great welcome flow of emails where they really get engaged and learn about our brand, I guess.
No, so, and this is where I'm going to this.
Yeah.
You
We're
figure this
not
out.
we're not doing that part that great, I'll be honest. The newsletter right now, we really have to. We're in the process of revamping the whole thing, so it will be great soon.
We're going to change that. So thank you for sharing that. So I came up with something called the shopper signal flywheel. And the point is this. If I get onto your list, I'm interested in your product. You can have a conversation with me. So
Yeah.
instead of using it as a couponing device like most brands do, have a
Hmm.
conversation with me one on one and start asking me questions. How do I use the product? What do I like about it? Let's say that you wanted to come up with a new product, chocolate or banana. Which one do you like? Well, Dan, which one do you prefer? And I'll say
Yeah.
chocolate, okay? And then you say, well, most everyone said chocolate, so here's the product in a generic looking wrapper. What do you think about it before you go into production, before you start sourcing, before you start spending money? My point being is that I can help co-create your products. One, two, as you're listening to me, and this is the most important thing, you're gaining valuable insights. You're learning from me in my voice how I use the product. You can then take that to the retailer and say, here's a real customer. Three, you're pre-selling this stuff, your products, so you can go to the retailer. Look, we've got people lined up for this. You just need to put it on your shelf. Four, by communicating like this, you're creating a ecosystem outside of retail so that, let's say something happens to the store and you get kicked off all the shelves. Sadly, those things kind of happen. You future proof your brand. So there are a lot of advantages to that. So anyhow, the point being is that there are ways to communicate better with that consumer. And as you communicate with me and help convert me, up your value ladder from just a curious consumer to a loyal evangelist that appreciates and understands everything that you said, now I'm going to start evangelizing to my community. That's how we build this. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I like that actually. And that's good, very good feedback as we're sort of revamping that whole side of our website and our e-com and our newsletter to use that two-way communication.
Right.
We're not just feeding information, we're actually getting information that can help us on new launches and yeah, even pack design and everything. Very good.
Well, let me pause here because this is the opportunity I want every founder to hear. Your sales report can tell you what happened. It cannot tell you why a shopper chose your product, what they almost purchased instead, what message mattered most, what disappointed them, or what might turn an occasional purchase into a habit. Your email list should not be used only to distribute coupons and brand announcements. It can become a two-way shopper signal system. Ask one useful question. Listen to the language your real customers use. Learn what they value, what they need next, and what you could do to make the product easier to understand, choose, and recommend. Then use those signals to improve your product, packaging, promotion, retailer conversations, and repeat purchase strategy. I call this the Shopper Signal Flywheel. I created a free guide to help you begin using this strategy with shoppers that you already have. You can download it instantly at retailsolve.com/guide31. You can also download the guide and review the show notes and find everything mentioned in this episode at retailsolve.com/session333. Now let's get back to Marise and how Chai Organics turns its values into relationships shoppers can understand and support. Thank you. There's so much more. Trade marketing. There's so many other things you can do with it. And the point being, and thank you for saying that, Marise, is that so the big brands, they talk at us. I'm
Yeah.
a big brand. Buy us because we're good. Why? Because we're good. Why? Because we're fantastic. Why? Because you need to buy us. Why? It's always about them.
Yeah.
So now you're going to change the messaging. So you're talking to me as an individual. I feel heard. I feel seen. I feel part of your community. And now I'm going to help support your brand.
Yeah. Fascinating. That's very true. I think a lot of people um, don't have that platform to express, what they really want, what they
Yeah.
want from their food, what's important to them. And it is valuable information. Like you said, you don't have to go out and pay for it from a data set. You can, I think that's why we used to really like early on, we felt we benefited a lot also from doing demos and doing consumer shows because you would have that live interaction. And I found that very valuable. It wasn't just about selling the product. It was finding out what's resonating with this person in front of me. What does this person in front of me really care about? When I'm describing the product, do certain things kind of fall flat? And are there certain things where you just see them light up? I found early on that often when I would just kind of like talk at people, like I did before with the whole nutritional science thing, you'd see like their eyes glaze over and be like, no, it's really high in lauric acid. And they'd be like, get me out of here. But you say something with heart, something with impact. We'd explain how, we're helping to save wild elephants in Sri Lanka. And that would just resonate with people. They'd be like, oh, wild elephants, that awakens something inside of me. And I feel like, wow, that's
Sure.
really cool. I want to support that, So I noticed that early on. And I realized, okay, like as a brand, I like to geek out and like talk about these things, but this isn't where we go with our messaging. Like we don't market on technical, fact-based, that's not what we do. We try to reach people with their values, with their emotions, and create that emotional connection with people because really I think most decisions are made emotionally. And sadly in food, I think a lot of brands manipulate that and they create, this false sense of excitement over really things that are actually bad for people. We try to do the opposite. We try to create genuine excitement because now people realize, oh, I can have a lasting impact through my actions, through my small purchase. I can make a difference. And I think people value that. People want to do the right thing, and we give them that opportunity. But that's something I learned really on one-on-one interactions. Okay, what works, what doesn't work. So yeah, leveraging that on a bigger scale with thousands of people in a newsletter is a cool idea too.
Well, thank you for saying that, and I will include that as this week's free guide. I always include a free guide in every episode, so thank you. And let me go one step further. So when you're talking to the retailer, first of all, most brands they use panel groups, and I cannot tell you how many products I've seen where the brand group has said, "Hey, our product scores really really high," and it fails. And the
Yeah.
problem is the panels that they're talking to get the consumer advice aren't the consumers that are buying your stuff. Okay,
Right.
they're more generic, and sometimes they just tell
Yeah.
you what they want to say. I'm not going to say they lie, but the stuff
Yeah.
can be very
Not
misleading.
reliable. Yeah.
Exactly. So when you think about it, where I'm going with this, the retailer needs three things. They want a product that they know can earn a profit in their category, whose contribution. So base sales increasing, that's your contribution. That's what they take to make. One, two, they want a competitive advantage in the market, meaning that you're doing something to help them grow and gain more market share. And three, they
Mhm.
want more traffic in their store. So with
Yeah.
that said, if you can develop a story for the retailer that talks about your consumer in your consumer's voice, again, the market basket, all that stuff, that's something they don't have access to. So while the big brands are going to come and say, well, this is what consumers think, well, that's a generic consumer, and I don't know if I trust it. But if you can say,
Yeah.
here's what you can do, where I'm going with this is that I met a brand, don't want to mention the name, but they were actually popular bar brand at this point, but they started in an entirely different category. But they had an organic product and it was authentic, and they were scattered throughout the store in several different departments. And I put together a very informal Facebook survey for them, and we used their customers' feedback, and they went to the retailer plus some other data, etc. And they got into all 1,600 Safeway stores in the produce section, and they grew from sub 200,000 to over 3 million, etc. And the point being is that if you can speak to the retailer and tell them about what their consumers looking for, that's
Mhm.
the opportunity. Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think when you mention that, it's funny, we've never used panels, we've maybe sometimes we should have, every once in a while you launch a product, actually, what were we thinking? Like, that one's not going to work. But most of them have been successful. I would say
Good.
that, like, probably over 80% of what we've launched, maybe 90%, I think we've had success. And, I think a lot of it comes down to also really being in touch with the consumer, as we really are that consumer too. We build products that we believe in because it's what we would want to use for our family. I know for myself as a parent, I'm a mom. I have two kids. Uh, my partner, Chanaka, he's my husband, so he has two kids too. We have two daughters. They're great. They're amazing. They're athletic. They're busy. They're always on the go, and they are totally plant-based in the sense of vegetarian, dairy-free, strictly gluten-free, for dietary intolerance reasons. And we try to get as much high-quality organic food that's low in any kind of like added sugars and additives and all that. So, I really resonate with that consumer, and I think that consumer resonates with our products. And so it's not a stretch for me to think, okay, how will I communicate with, the mom who's looking for a healthy snack she can trust for her kids when, for example, with our coconut rolls, which are, by the way, really taking off in the States right now, which is
Good.
exciting. So something about our coconut rolls is really resonating with the folks down there, which is really great. I think it's just that, and we didn't put a lot of marketing activity, I'll say, into these products. They've just kind of taken off on their own, which is very exciting. And I think with our coconut rolls, what's really reaching people on top of like the cute visuals and the animals, which is something I'm proud of because I'll say I designed it, but I really co-designed it with my family. And, Chanaka had some input. He wanted that Hawaiian look. And then the kids really helped me a lot with the colors and the animals. So I'd say we kind of co-created that as a family. But something really resonates. And I think it's, beyond just the cute packaging, it's this clean, simple ingredient. You have no idea how many people, because I do our social media, I see people just literally put our ingredients on social media and say, this is a great product, just from the ingredients. So it's like clean, it's just organic heirloom rice, organic coconut milk, very minimal sugar and coconut sugar. And then you've got like pure ingredients. There's no additives, there's no seed oils. And so it's like, but then you taste it and it's like, okay, it's gluten-free, it's organic, it's vegan, it's all these things, but they taste really good. Like the conventional consumer loves them. So I think that kind of product, like I understand how exciting it is as a parent to be able to give something to my kids that checks all the boxes, but doesn't taste like just some kind of dry, generic cardboard. It actually tastes good. And then figuring out like how to communicate with that consumer or the kid or whatever, it's not so much of a stretch because we have a family. We are that consumer. We understand the pain points. We understand, things like I'll have messaging on my social media like, as I'm traveling and having trouble finding food that my kids can eat, because everywhere you go, it's like, is it gluten-free? No. Do you have anything vegetarian? No. Is it this? And then you literally have to walk out of places, like feeling that frustration as a parent, but then being able to go on my social media and say like, hey, don't get stuck hungry on a trip. Make sure you pack a couple bags of coconut rolls so you and your family can snack on the beach or whatever, because it's true, you might not find something like that wherever you're going. So like, I think I understand the consumer, I understand the pain points, and it's easier for us to communicate and to understand their preferences. Although I think we can always do better. So always welcome, we always welcome advice on how to message those things. But yeah, I think relating to the consumer is so important. That's what we try to do.
Fantastic. Well, now you've got homework. I mean, not literally homework, but I mean, leverage this. Anyhow, it's that strategy is going to help maximize what you're doing. So I'm excited that you're doing that. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing all that. And one of the cool things about what we're talking about is your ability to give back to consumers to different programs that resonate. Let's talk about that, because as you're putting together your new strategy, that needs to be in there. The personal
Mm,
side of you, because
mm,
that's going to resonate. When I'm buying a product, I don't want to know that it's a faceless brand. I want to
yeah.
appreciate and understand you, because that's where the authenticity comes from. So, can you
Hmm.
talk a little bit about how you give back and then how you communicate those values as well?
Well, one of the important ways that we give back as a brand is through Fairtrade. We've been a Fairtrade brand since we started, and we're actually Canada's first and only Fairtrade certified coconut milk. So, because our volume of coconut milk is so high, it really is our best seller by far. Most of our Fairtrade impact comes from coconut, but it's not only coconut. We also have Fairtrade spices. We have Fairtrade tea with our masala chai black tea, and those are very important products to our line because we know the communities who they support are important, and we know what the alternatives look like, especially in tea. So we're proud of those products as well. And even with our products that aren't fair trade certified, we do work with partners overseas in Sri Lanka who are very on the ground, very involved with the communities who grow the products, who package the products. And we always make sure that everyone along the line is being respected, and not only respected, but their lives are actually being enriched, that we're giving back. And that's part of our sort of more regenerative business philosophy, is that we're not only sustainable, we always want to give back. So we don't sustain, we regenerate. We actually build the way that you build soil health year over year with compost, with green manure, with, roots in the ground. We build community. We build even the people within our team. We have that philosophy of continually improving and continually growing together. So with fair trade, one of the nice things is that there's a set standard minimum price, but there's also a fair trade premium that goes along with the fair trade promise. And what's really nice about the premium is that this is actually a pool of funds that goes outside of the actual product. So the farmer grows and sells the product, or it could be in some cases on a coconut orchard, they could be workers, but workers that are either treated sort of as independent farmers. They're still in a farmers association. So they come and they work on the orchard as if it's their land, or they could be workers there or workers on someone else's land. Bottom line is everyone's getting a fair price, everyone's getting fair treatment, and they're receiving, and their communities are receiving these fair trade premiums. What's exciting about the premiums is that actually it really helps to build community. So it's not only the farmers, but it's the whole farmers community normally who benefit. We've seen fair trade premiums go towards things like getting more access to fresh water in a community that's way up in the mountains in rural Sri Lanka, or having a footbridge to cross, a little stream, but that's difficult for children or elderly people to cross. That could be as simple as that for the whole community. It could be building a community center or a daycare so that all the children in the community have access, and paying for the salary of a teacher so that everyone, all the families in the community have access, and that helps the whole family. Or it could be things like farming tools, seedlings, organic fertilizer inputs, training. Sometimes some fair trade premiums will go towards women's empowerment projects. So like helping with either teaching skills or having equipment like sewing machines. We've seen like in a small rural town in Sri Lanka where they're growing spices, a little shop set up where women are selling clothing to the neighborhood. So people can buy clothes, but they're also making extra money. So these are all ways through fair trade that we can empower communities. And we also have handmade packaging with our spice boxes, where the women making these products are actually living in rural Sri Lanka where there's not much employment opportunity. And, they're at home with a family. So this gives them an avenue to make money in a fair and respectful, equitable way with their hands, and actually hand make these boxes using all eco-friendly materials. It's cute packaging for our products. We love them. It avoids having to import like, another packaging product from China, for example, or just from somewhere where it's just packaging. At the end of the day, it doesn't have impact, right? So this is a way that we can leverage the fact that we have packaging to create impact. And these women are actually working from home with their hands, making income that's reliable, that is giving back to their community, and it's like win-win. So we look for these win-win opportunities where it's like, okay, how can we, we're in this situation, how can we now use the fact that we have packaging to make that a positive, create positive impact for someone else. We didn't have to do it. Sometimes it's complicated because we have to then, how many boxes do we have overseas, and did they count them right? And we got to order them ahead, and it can be a little more complex. But at the end of the day, we know that matters. And actually, when we were in Sri Lanka in 2021, when the whole country had just shut down, we went right after they reopened the country, which is a really interesting time to be there with the whole transition that was happening with organic and everything. It was quite interesting. I could talk a whole hour about that. But when we visited these women, what we found out was that because they also make handicraft products for tourists, like, little ceramic elephants and stuff like that, and because there had been no tourists, our packaging was their only source of income for that entire time. So
Yeah.
you don't always think about those things. And I remember at the time thinking, wow, because we're paying so much on container prices. Our container prices had skyrocketed. At one point, we were just breaking even that year. Like we just couldn't even make profit because all the shipping cost was so high and everything was complicated. But then I'd stop and think, but wow, like we've still had so much impact, and that in itself is a win, I think, to be able to provide that for other people. I mean, for us, that matters anyways.
Good for you. I'm impressed. So thank you for doing that. I mean, that's great that you give back. And the other thing is, because you do that, those non-employees are going to act like part of your family. They're going to bend over backwards to treat you well. So
Yeah,
thank
so
you
we
for
have these
sharing.
long-term thank you. No, we have these long-term partnerships that it's one of these things that you see, and I say it all the time because we experience it. Fair trade and this kind of regenerative relationship that we build with our partners, it goes both ways. Sometimes in times of shortage or challenge or scarcity, you want to make sure that you have a solid partner. And I think companies who kind of use extractive policies and don't look for that long-term partnership, they're going to lose in the end because it's not getting any easier, let's face it, with climate change and global insecurity and all these crazy things happening all the time, and trade wars and petrol prices and shipping on and on. There's always some kind of challenge. And we have found that by having that respectful and regenerative and long-term relationship that we build with our partners, from shipping to packaging to raw material sourcing, all along the supply chain right down to the retailer, is that those relationships actually matter. And I know for a fact that sometimes our shipment will make it onto a container where someone had to choose, and ours will get on because we've built those solid partnerships where we're like family. It's true. Every step along the way, we're like family, and we all treat each other that way, which is nice.
And I appreciate the fact that you share those values. So thank you. So now you're gonna turn your consumer base into regenerative, however you want to put that, but you're going to use that mindset with them. I think that's fantastic. And the other cool thing about this industry, the reason I love it, is because those relationships, even back at home, you know people in the industry that can help, or you know where the resources are. And so the thing I love about working on quote unquote this side of the fence, meaning natural, small brands, organic, etc., as opposed to big brands, is over there. When I was working for Unilever right out of college, well, not out of college, but anyhow, when I was younger, we used to joke about the only way that we were going to get promoted is we figured out a way to knock off our boss. Obviously, we wouldn't do that. But my point is, it was such a different mindset. Then I went to work for Kimberly Clark, and we weren't the pretty kids on the block. The like you see in a
Yeah.
lot of companies, but everyone worked together. In that same mindset, that's here. Now I'm not saying that company's like that today, but back then it was. But the point
Yeah.
being is that in this industry, there are always people to reach out to help, to get help from, if you've got a problem, etc.
Yeah. I love the community. I really do love the health food community. It's the best industry.
It's great. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to cover?
Gosh, we've really covered a lot, but well, we just we'll be announcing a cool update soon. So if anyone is in Canada, especially in Ontario, we've got something really cool coming up with Costco that we are about to announce. I think a lot of people are going to get excited about this. So stay tuned for that announcement. And we are launching 3 new flavors of coconut rolls in the Northeast United States in the next 3 months, I would say. So
Oh,
this fall they'll be rolling out. We're really excited about these flavors. We have a passion fruit that's actually made with pure organic passion fruit puree. And one of the cool things about passion fruit is you can grow it intercropping with coconut in an agroforestry model. So that's one of those crops that's kind of exciting to be able to offer because we're able to like maximize some agricultural space and create more income for farmers while giving this great product. So no flavors added. It's pure passion fruit puree. I love that one. We've got a salted caramel that's actually made with pure sea salt and caramelized Fairtrade organic cane sugar. So there's no flavor added again, no seed oils, no garbage. It's so delicious. And the probably most exciting one is the chocolate filled because this is a chocolate filled wafer roll that is to die for and it's vegan, it's organic, it's gluten free. But you would never think, I mean, like anyone will fall in love with this, and it's like a really rich, just like delicious chocolate. So we're super excited about those 3 SKUs. If anyone's in the Northeast, like that whole New York area and around, you'll be finding those rolling out soon. So we're excited for that launch, and they are also coming to Canada. I know you have a lot of listeners in Canada. Over the next few months, stay tuned, and they'll be coming into stores in your area probably sometime in October. So yeah, very excited about that.
thank you for sharing that. That sounds exciting. In fact, I will put a link to you, to your brand, to your website, etc., so people can follow along and join your newsletter. So
Yes, yes, and I
that'll
promise
be
to
cool.
send more. We definitely don't spam people. I'll promise you that. It'll be like,
Oh.
I signed up for this newsletter. I'm not getting many messages, but we're gonna change that soon. We're gonna have great newsletter content.
Well, I'm so thrilled that you came on. So thank you so much for your
Thank
time. I'm
you. Thank
glad,
you
so,
so
and
much.
I'm glad, and thank you for sharing what you shared about your trip to Sri Lanka. That was pretty cool on LinkedIn. So
Yeah, and we have more coming. I did just get back, but I'm still posting. We've got some cool. If you're on Instagram, definitely follow us. We have some cool video content there, reels, and I highlight everything in our Instagram highlights, so you can actually watch like all the stories we've shared. Because we're so
okay,
busy there, sometimes I just share a quick story. But LinkedIn as well. I love to bring people along as much as possible over there. And yeah, thank you so much. I have really enjoyed this conversation, and I know we could talk forever as we have in the past. So
yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
here. Thank you.
Right.
And appreciate all the advice. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Marise, thank you for sharing your story and for the work that you and your team are doing. The lessons I hope you take away from this conversation is that authenticity is not a slogan. It is the consistency between what the founder believes, how their product is made, what the shopper experiences, and how the brand communicates. Maurice and Char Organics have spent 20 years building that consistency into their business. The next opportunity for every mission driven brand is to stay equally close to the people who buy their product. Listen to them, learn their language, invite them deeper into the story. Then use those signals to make better product, marketing, retail, and growth decisions. You can learn more about Maurice and Char Organics through the links in the show notes. You can download the free Shopper Signal Flywheel and review everything mentioned in this episode at retailsolve.com/session 333. Thank you for listening to the Bulletproof Your CPG Brand podcast. I look forward to seeing you in the next show.